Hello, today I'm going to explain to you how to properly grow a flower and keep it alive based off the research I have conducted. The National Garden Association says that the most important work done in research will be done with a pencil, paper, and other research materials. Here are some things you should consider when growing your flower or garden. The first thing I would consider is the history of something. The history of something is always important to know when researching something. National Geographic's website says that flowers first emerged on Earth over 130 million years ago. During this time, flowers took firm root and established all kinds of varieties in shapes, sizes, and colors all over the world. Botanists are still to this day trying to figure out how flowers first emerged on Earth, according to Jonathan Blair at National Geographic. As I mentioned earlier, the most important thing to do when learning about something is research. According to the National Garden Association, there are certain things you should consider before starting your flower or garden. For example, there are annual flowers that have to be replaced after each growing season, and there are perennial flowers that just grow back every year. You have to decide which you want. You also have to consider if your plant will thrive in the shade or in the sun. Just to list a few other things that you would need to consider before starting the growing processes are the color of the flower, the season, the foliage texture, and the mass of the flowers. Those are things you have to know before starting your flower garden. A bigger thing to consider is when you are trying to plant your flower. The Urban Farmer Flower Growing Guide says that there are certain times to plant certain flowers. There are all kinds of charts online to tell you which flower to plant in which season. For example, the best flower to grow right now is a geranium. Geraniums thrive in the fall. You also have to consider where to plant your flower. Different flowers thrive in different environments. Sunflowers, for example, have to be planted outdoors because they are a gentle annual, but they have to be planted after the danger of the frost, according to the Urban Farmer Flower Growing Guide. According to the Garden Supply Company, snapdragons, however, are to be planted indoors 6 to 8 weeks before being transported outside. The reason you have to consider where you're planting your flower is because plants are affected by many different factors such as temperature, the weather, and more. You definitely have to consider them before planting your flower. The next thing you have to do is actually take the steps to grow a flower. As previously mentioned, step 1 is obviously to do research. You need to know when, where, and how to grow your flower. Step 2 is to actually dig the soil for whatever you're planting. Step 3 is to finally plant the flower and to watch it start growing, whatever flower it may be and wherever it's supposed to go. Then step 4 is to water the plant adequately and make sure to add mulch if the flower needs it. For example, I planted this flower a couple weeks ago and I have to water it 4 times a day to keep it alive. The last step to maintain your flower growing is to deadhead, which means to pinch or cut off the flower stem below the spent flower of the plants that fade out of the bloom, and to groom the area around your flower. That is important to keep your flower alive or to grow back. Now let's review how to properly grow a flower. As you may recall, when growing a flower, there are many things to consider. The best thing you can start with is research so you know what you want and how to get it. You should learn the history of flowers, and you should also consider when and where you're growing your flower. Then you take the actual steps to the growing process and you watch your flower grow. Now you should be well informed over how to grow your flower. Thank you.